My son handed me an eviction notice at my own front door, smiled and said, "Mom, you need to find a nursing home by Friday." The audacity of it stole my breath. I ripped the paper and threw it at his feet, the flimsy document fluttering uselessly around his expensive shoes. That's when he called the police on his own mother. If you're watching this, please consider sharing my story. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Let me rewind and explain how a mother who sold everything, sacrificed her future to save her dying son, ended up being treated like a criminal, a stranger, by the very child she rescued. My name is Margaret Thompson, and 3 days ago I learned a bitter truth. Sometimes the greatest acts of love are mistaken for utter foolishness. "Michael, what is this supposed to mean?" I asked, my voice trembling as I held the official document. My 35-year-old son stood on the porch of what used to be my sanctuary, my home, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my yearly property taxes. "It's exactly what it says, Mom. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises." His voice was flat, devoid of emotion, like he was discussing a business transaction instead of uprooting his own mother. I stared at him, desperately searching for a flicker of the boy I'd nurtured, the man I'd sacrificed everything for just 2 short years ago. "This is my house, Michael." "Actually, it's not anymore." He casually pulled out his phone and began scrolling through something, his gaze fixed on the screen. "The deed was transferred to me 18 months ago, when you couldn't make the payments anymore. Remember?" Of course, I remembered. How could I ever forget selling my childhood home, my reliable car, and emptying my hard-earned retirement account to finance his cancer treatment? How could I forget moving into his sterile spare bedroom like some unwelcome guest while he supposedly recovered? "But you're better now," I stammered, gesturing weakly, as if that should be reason enough. "The doctor said a lot of things," Michael replied, his expression unchanged, impenetrable. "But medical bills don't magically disappear just because someone gets healthy. I need to sell this place to cover the remaining debt." "Where am I supposed to go, Michael? Where will I live?" He simply shrugged, a gesture that sliced through me more deeply than any insult. "That's really not my problem anymore, Mom. You're 62. Social services can help you find an assisted living facility. They have resources." I felt a cold, sharp pain explode within me. Not a heartbreak. That had been a slow, agonizing process, unfolding for months as Michael became increasingly distant, increasingly callous, despite his supposed recovery. This was something far more primal, something that sounded like the final, desperate shred of my maternal instinct finally giving way. "After everything I did for you," my voice emerged as a barely audible whisper, choked with disbelief and hurt. "I never asked you to bankrupt yourself," he retorted, glancing impatiently at his expensive watch as if he had some incredibly important appointment to keep. "That was entirely your choice, Mom." That was the breaking point. That's when I impulsively threw the eviction notice at him, a futile act of defiance. That's when he coldly pulled out his phone and dialed 911, reporting that his unstable elderly mother was having some kind of emotional breakdown and might pose a threat. 2 hours later, I found myself standing alone in the dimly lit parking lot of the Riverside Motel, clutching a single battered suitcase and with a paltry $247 remaining in my nearly depleted checking account, watching my son drive away in his gleaming BMW. The very same BMW that I'd helped him purchase just 6 months prior with what I had foolishly believed was the last of my meager savings. The motel room reeked of stale cigarettes and shattered dreams. The stained carpet whispered tales of desperation and regret, stories I didn't want to hear, didn't want to become a part of. The ancient air conditioning unit rattled and wheezed like it was gasping its last breaths. I sank onto the edge of the worn bed and desperately tried to understand how my life had shrunk to this motel room, this suitcase, this terrifying uncertainty. Tomorrow, I'd be forced to begin the arduous task of searching for a permanent place to live, some semblance of stability. Tomorrow, I'd have to swallow my considerable pride and humble myself before social services, just as Michael had so casually suggested. Tomorrow, I'd be forced to fully accept the devastating reality that the son I had raised, the child I would have gladly died for, had become someone utterly unrecognizable, someone cold and cruel. But tonight, I was consumed by an all-encompassing rage, angry at Michael for his blatant cruelty, his astonishing lack of empathy, angry at myself for my own blinding naivety, for my willingness to believe the best in him, even when the warning signs were glaring, angry at a world where doing what you believe to be the right thing seemingly transforms you into a complete and utter fool. I was still simmering with anger when a sharp knock echoed on my motel door at precisely 9:47 p.m. Peeking through the peephole, I saw a man impeccably dressed in an expensive suit, holding a sleek briefcase, looking for all the world like he'd rather be anywhere else. At 62, I'd learned to trust my instincts, and this man exuded the kind of carefully cultivated confidence that often precedes bad news and expensive lawyers. "Mrs. Thompson, my name is James Patterson. I'm an attorney with the State Insurance Fraud Division." He held up an official-looking badge for a brief perfunctory moment. "I need to speak with you about your son, Michael." I warily opened the door, but left the security chain firmly in place. "If Michael sent you..." "Ma'am, your son is completely unaware of my presence here. In fact, it is absolutely crucial that he does not find out about this conversation." Mr. Patterson nervously glanced around the deserted motel corridor, as if he expected someone to be lurking in the shadows, watching us. "May I come in, Mrs. Thompson?" Something in his urgent tone, something in the gravity of his gaze, made me reluctantly step back and disengage the chain, allowing him entry. He surveyed the depressing room with a practiced, almost clinical observation, the kind that suggested he had witnessed far worse, but not by much. "Mrs. Thompson, I need you to sit down for this." "I'm quite all right standing, thank you. After the day I've had, sitting feels far too much like surrender." Mr. Patterson unceremoniously opened his briefcase and extracted a thick, intimidating folder. "We have been conducting an extensive investigation into a sophisticated insurance fraud scheme for the past 6 months, Mrs. Thompson. Your son, Michael, is at the very center of it." I felt the floor suddenly tilt beneath my feet, throwing me off balance. "That's simply impossible. Michael had cancer. He needed incredibly expensive treatment that I personally paid for. Ma'am, according to our information, your son has been in complete remission for 2 years." The words struck me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me gasping for air. I did sink down then, heavily, onto the edge of the bed, my legs unable to support me any longer. "What are you possibly talking about?" According to his detailed medical records, Michael Thompson's cancer was successfully treated and completely eliminated by March of 2023. He has been perfectly healthy ever since. Mr. Patterson's voice remained calm and measured, but his words were devastatingly clear. "The treatments that you have been so generously funding for the past 1.5 years, Mrs. Thompson, they never actually happened." I stared at him, my mind desperately struggling to comprehend what he was saying, refusing to accept the horrifying truth. But the bills, the endless appointments, he was so incredibly weak after the chemotherapy sessions. "Mrs. Thompson, there were no chemotherapy sessions. Your son has been systematically filing fraudulent insurance claims for entirely non-existent treatments, while simultaneously extracting money from you for the very same fabricated procedures." He extracted a complex spreadsheet, densely packed with numbers and medical codes. "Our thorough investigation has revealed that he has collected over $800,000 from this elaborate scheme." The room began to spin violently around me. $800,000. I thought of my empty bank account, my sold home, my non-existent retirement, all sacrificed for a lie. I remembered all those times Michael had looked so drained and weakened after his supposed treatments, how deeply grateful he had seemed each time I wrote another check, signed away another piece of my future. "How is that even remotely possible?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "It's far more common than you might think, Mrs. Thompson. Family members rarely question medical expenses, particularly when they believe that the life of a loved one is hanging in the balance." Mr. Patterson finally sat down in the room's single uncomfortable chair. "Your son is remarkably clever, I'll give him that. He meticulously created fake billing statements, skillfully forged doctor signatures, even enlisted a friend to impersonate a nurse, calling you with updates and reassurances. I vividly remembered those calls. Sarah, the sweet-voiced nurse who always thanked me profusely for being such a supportive mother, who always seemed to call at precisely the moment when I was experiencing doubts about writing yet another check. But I saw him getting weaker. He lost weight. He looked genuinely sick. Performance, Mrs. Thompson, pure performance, and likely some assistance from over-the-counter medications to subtly mimic some of the expected symptoms. Weight loss, fatigue, nausea, they are all easily faked if someone is sufficiently motivated. The simmering anger I had felt earlier was nothing, a mere spark compared to the raging inferno that erupted within me now. This wasn't merely a betrayal of trust. This was a calculated, systematic act of evil, meticulously orchestrated and performed by someone who had called me Mom for 35 long years. "What do you need from me?" My voice sounded foreign, detached, flat and cold with a barely suppressed rage. "Your testimony, your detailed financial records, your assistance in building an irrefutable case that will put him in prison for a very long time." Mr. Patterson leaned forward intently. "But I need to warn you, Mrs. Thompson, this will not be easy. He is, after all, your son. Are you truly prepared for what comes next?" I glanced around the depressing motel room, at my pathetic single suitcase, at the diminished life that Michael had reduced me to while he lived in extravagant luxury on my stolen money. I thought about the beloved house I had inherited from my parents, sold to save a son who was never actually in any danger. "Mr. Patterson," I said quietly, my voice firm and unwavering, "I have spent 62 years diligently attempting to be a good mother. It is high time I learned how to be a dangerous one." 6 months earlier, I had been comfortably living in the house where I was born, meticulously making plans for a well-deserved retirement filled with leisurely garden clubs and doting on the grandchildren I would likely never have. The life-altering phone call that shattered my world came on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning while I was patiently watering my prized tomatoes. "Mom, I need you to sit down." Michael's voice had been uncharacteristically shaky, laced with fear and uncertainty. "I just came from the doctor. It's cancer." I vividly remember dropping the phone directly into the tomato plants and awkwardly having to fish it out, dirt clinging to the speaker, while he waited, his silence heavy with dread. "What kind? Where? How bad?" "Aggressive lymphoma, stage 3. The oncologist says I need to begin aggressive treatment immediately." His voice broke, cracking with emotion. "Mom, I can't possibly afford this. My insurance will cover some of it, but the experimental treatments, the specialized care, the specialists, I'm looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars." That night, I lay awake for hours, desperately doing math in my head, the figures swirling before my eyes in the darkness. My retirement account held a relatively modest $180,000. The house, if I was incredibly lucky, was worth maybe $320,000. It would have to be enough. It absolutely had to be enough. Now, sitting in Mr. Patterson's meticulously organized law office 3 days after our initial meeting at the seedy motel, I watched him spread out meticulously collected documents that painted a drastically different, infinitely more sinister picture. Bank statements, detailed medical records, meticulously filed insurance claims, all relentlessly painting a portrait of elaborate deception, of carefully constructed lies so breathtaking in their scope that they literally stole my breath away. "The fake medical bills began right here," he said, pointing to a specific document dated 8 months ago. "Notice that the letterhead appears perfectly authentic, but the actual address is for a generic mail forwarding service. Your son was skillfully creating these documents on his home computer." I carefully studied the paper. It looked identical to the dozens of others I had received and dutifully paid without even a flicker of suspicion. "How did you eventually catch him?" "Insurance companies have become incredibly sophisticated when it comes to detecting fraud, Mrs. Thompson. When someone files claims for experimental treatments costing $50,000 a month, they tend to investigate thoroughly." Mr. Patterson extracted another folder from the stack. Michael became increasingly greedy. He was billing for entirely non-existent procedures, claiming medications that haven't even been approved for use, even falsely claiming to receive treatment at specialized facilities that don't actually treat his supposed type of cancer. But what about the insurance money? Why wasn't that sufficient? Because there was no insurance money, Mrs. Thompson. He was diligently filing the fraudulent claims, but they were all being rejected or immediately flagged for further investigation. The only real money coming in was from you. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. So every single dollar I gave him went directly into his personal accounts. He has been living exceptionally well, living a life of luxury while you have sacrificed absolutely everything. Mr. Patterson then proceeded to show me detailed bank statements that made my head spin, designer clothing, extravagant dinners at exclusive restaurants, a luxurious penthouse apartment that I had never even seen, despite supposedly living with him for months. Where was he actually living when I believed he was staying in my guest room? He owns a penthouse downtown, Mrs. Thompson. He has been living there for over a year. The story about the spare bedroom was just another carefully constructed lie, meticulously designed to keep you from becoming suspicious of his lavish lifestyle. I thought back to all those nights I had spent worrying sick about him, lying awake in what I believed was his guest room, listening intently for any sounds that might indicate he needed assistance during the night. All those mornings I had meticulously prepared breakfast for him before his fake medical appointments. Mrs. Thompson, Mr. Patterson said gently, his voice filled with a trace of sympathy. I need to ask you some potentially difficult questions. Did you ever actually see your son receive any treatment? Did you ever accompany him to any of these appointments? He claimed that the chemotherapy made him far too sick for any visitors, that the clinic had extremely strict policies regarding family members. I closed my eyes for a moment, vividly remembering how reasonable it had all seemed at the time. He said he didn't want me to see him that weak, that vulnerable. And the physical symptoms you noticed, Mrs. Thompson? He looked genuinely terrible. Pale, gaunt, utterly exhausted. His hair began falling out around month 3 of treatment. I paused, a chilling realization creeping into my consciousness. Wait a minute. His hair was most likely shaved off deliberately. The rest could easily have been achieved with some clever makeup, some strategically chosen diet pills, and some remarkably convincing acting. Mr. Patterson's expression remained grim, his silence confirming my suspicions. Your son put on a masterful performance, Mrs. Thompson, a performance that lasted a full 18 months. That takes an enormous amount of planning and unwavering commitment. The rage that was building inside me was unlike anything I had ever experienced before in my life. This wasn't merely simple theft. This was calculated psychological torture, skillfully performed by someone who was supposed to love me unconditionally, someone who had sworn to cherish and protect me. What happens now? We are prepared to offer your son a plea deal, full restitution to you, Mrs. Thompson, plus a significant prison sentence. But we require your complete and unwavering cooperation. Mr. Patterson leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. Are you prepared to testify against your own son? I thought long and hard about the beloved house I had been forced to sell to save a life that was never actually in any danger. I thought about the comfortable retirement I had willingly sacrificed for treatments that never actually occurred. I thought about all those sleepless nights I had spent lying awake in terror, terrified that my child might die while he was living a life of extravagant luxury on my stolen money. Mr. Patterson, I said finally, standing up and smoothing the wrinkles from my skirt, my voice resolute, I am not testifying against my son. I am testifying for justice, for truth, and I want every single penny back, plus interest to compensate for the time he has had it, earning returns while I have been forced to live in near poverty. The actual confrontation occurred at Michael's lavish penthouse apartment, a place that I had never even seen, despite supposedly living with him for well over a year. Mr. Patterson had arranged for me to wear a discreet wire, though he cautioned me that anything Michael said could potentially be used against him in court. I am not particularly concerned about his legal troubles, I told the attorney flatly. I care about looking him directly in the eye when he finally realizes that I know the complete and unvarnished truth. The building was exactly the kind of place I had often dreamed of living in during my retirement years. Sleek glass and gleaming steel reaching proudly toward the sky, with a uniformed doorman who looked like he had been personally hired from central casting. The express elevator to the 23rd floor was probably worth more than my car had ever been. Michael casually answered the door wearing silk pajamas and an expensive cashmere robe. At 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, he looked remarkably healthy, unusually rested, and completely and utterly shocked to see me standing there. "Mom, how on earth did you find out where I live?" Funny thing about carefully constructed lies, sweetheart. They have a rather unfortunate way of eventually unraveling, no matter how carefully you weave them. I forcefully pushed past him into the luxurious apartment, and my breath involuntarily caught in my throat. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking panoramic view of the city skyline and the winding river below. The carefully selected furniture looked like it belonged in a glossy magazine spread. Original works of art hung on the walls, each one probably costing more than I had made in an entire year. "This is incredibly nice, Michael," I said, slowly running my fingertips along a gleaming marble countertop that stretched the entire length of the spacious kitchen. It must have cost an absolute fortune to furnish. "Mom, I can explain everything, I promise." "Can you explain how someone supposedly undergoing intense chemotherapy can possibly afford to live in a place like this?" I finally turned to face him directly, and for the very first time in 18 months, I saw genuine, unadulterated fear flickering in his eyes. "Can you explain how someone who is supposedly dying of cancer manages to have the boundless energy required to maintain a penthouse apartment?" Michael's face cycled through a rapid series of conflicting expressions before finally settling on one of defensive anger. "I honestly don't know what you are implying, but—" "I am not implying anything, Michael. I am simply stating verifiable facts." I reached into my purse and pulled out my cell phone, displaying a recent photo that Mr. Patterson had provided, a picture of Michael at an expensive restaurant just last week, laughing jovially with a group of friends, looking like the very picture of perfect health. "This photograph was taken during one of your supposed chemotherapy weeks, Michael." He stared blankly at the damning photo, and I watched his mind frantically work, rapidly calculating whether or not he could somehow still talk his way out of this, whether he could still salvage the situation. "Mom, I can explain everything. I sometimes have good days and—" "Stop, Michael." My voice was sharper, more forceful than I had ever used with him before. "Just stop lying to me for once. I know about the fake medical bills, Michael. I know about the elaborate insurance fraud scheme. I know that you have been perfectly healthy for 2 entire years, Michael." The color completely drained from his face, leaving him ashen. "Who possibly told you all of this? Does it really matter at this point, Michael? What matters most is that you knowingly stole my entire life savings to fund this elaborate charade?" I gestured around the luxurious apartment, my voice laced with bitterness. "You stole my house, Michael. You stole my hard-earned retirement. You stole my future, all while callously pretending to be dying." Michael sank heavily onto his expensive leather sofa, the one that likely cost more than I had in my checking account when he had callously kicked me out of my own house. "You honestly don't understand, Mom. I was fully intending to pay you back, I swear." "With what money, Michael? With the non-existent insurance settlements? Or were you planning to simply keep the fraud going indefinitely, bleeding me dry until I had nothing left?" "It honestly wasn't supposed to go this far, Mom." His voice was noticeably smaller now, the voice of a child caught in the act of stealing from the cookie jar. "It all started as just borrowing some money until I could get back on my feet after the real diagnosis." I felt the world tilt precariously again, threatening to throw me off balance. "The real diagnosis, Michael?" "Yes, Mom. I did actually have cancer, a small localized tumor, thankfully caught extremely early, and completely removed 2 years ago," he stammered, unable to meet my gaze. But the medical bills were still incredibly expensive, and then I got unexpectedly laid off from my job. And I honestly thought that if I just slightly exaggerated the severity of the situation for a few short months, I stared in stunned disbelief at my son, at this virtual stranger who had systematically destroyed my life for his own selfish convenience. Michael lurched to his feet, stumbling into the glass coffee table. The crash rang out like a punctuation mark in the wrong sentence. "You don't understand, Mom," he stammered, eyes darting toward the wall safe hidden behind an abstract painting. I didn't move. "Open it," I said, my voice calm, too calm. The bedroom door was ajar. Inside, a half-zipped suitcase revealed thick envelopes, bank cards, a safe deposit key. My phone buzzed in my purse, the signal from the wire. Patterson was waiting in the hallway. "It's over, Michael," I whispered. He gave a hollow laugh, then muttered, "Spare key," under the orchid pot. Outside, the elevator chimed and footsteps approached. So, there you have it. The choices we make, even those driven by the deepest love, can sometimes lead us down unexpected and painful paths. But remember, even in the face of betrayal and deceit, the human spirit is resilient. This story is a testament to a mother's love, a son's betrayal, and a woman's unwavering determination to reclaim her life and seek justice. And believe me, this is just the beginning. Part 2 will dive even deeper into the aftermath of Michael's betrayal and Margaret's fight to rebuild her life, showcasing how she confronts the challenges ahead. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Margaret's story? Have you ever experienced anything similar? Or do you have any questions about what might happen next? Share your comments and join the conversation below. I read them all. And if you want to find out what happens to Margaret and Michael, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss part 2. We'll be posting it soon, and you definitely won't want to miss the next chapter of this incredible story. Thanks for watching.